Layers of the Earth. The Earth is the only planet where life exists. Natural source of the Earth is land, water and air. The region of the Earth where the atmosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere interact and support life is called biosphere. The solid outermost layer of the Earth's crust and the rigid upper part of its mantle is called the lithosphere. The water, which is found on the Earth's surface, above it as clouds and below it as groundwater, is called hydrosphere. Hydrosphere containing water covers 75% of the Earth's surface. The air that covers the whole of the Earth like a blanket is called the atmosphere. Layers of atmosphere are stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, exosphere and ionosphere. Click on any button to get more information about them. Air. Air is a mixture of many gases like nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide and water vapors. The atmosphere covers the Earth like a blanket and air is a bad conductor of heat. The atmosphere keeps the average temperature of the Earth fairly steady during the day and even during the course of the whole year. The atmosphere prevents the sudden increase in temperature during the daylight hours. During the night time, it slows down the escape of heat into the outer space. Let us do an activity to understand how atmosphere controls the climate. Take a beaker full of water, a beaker full of sand and a closed bottle, all containing a thermometer. Keep them in bright sunlight for 3 hours. Now measure the temperature of all 3 vessels. Also take the temperature reading in shade at the same time. We observe that the sand and water do not heat up at the same rate. In shade, slightly the temperature decreases in sand, but there is no change in the water. Movement of air, wind. High-speed moving of air is called as wind. During the day, lands get heated up by the sun quicker than water and leads to the formation of water vapors. Water vapor is formed due to gets heated faster and starts rising. As this air rises, a region of low pressure is created and air above the sea moves into this area of low pressure. The movement of air from one region to other creates winds. During the day, the direction of the wind would be from the sea to the land. This is called sea breeze. At the night, both land and sea start to cool. Since water cools down slower than the land, the air above the water would be warmer than the air above the land. This is called land breeze. Rain. Let us see how the rain is formed in our planet. When water bodies such as sea, rivers and ponds are heated up during the day, a large amount of water evaporates and goes into the air. This process is called evaporation. Some amount of water vapors also get into the atmosphere by various biological activities. This air also gets heated. The hot air rises up carrying the water vapors with it. As the air rises, it expands and cools down. This cooling causes the water vapors in the air to condense in the form of tiny droplets. This condensation of water is facilitated if some particles could act as the nucleus of these drops to form around. Normally, dust and other suspended particles in the air perform this function. Once the water droplets are formed, they grow bigger by the condensation of these water droplets. When the drops have grown big and heavy, they fall down in the form of rain. This process is known as precipitation. Sometimes when the temperature of air is low enough, precipitation may occur in the form of snow, sleet or hail. Air pollution. An increase in the content of harmful substances in the air that may affect the well-being of the living organisms is called air pollution. Let us know the causes of air pollution. The fossil fuels like coal and petroleum contain small amount of nitrogen and sulfur. When these fuels are burnt, nitrogen and sulfur too are burnt, and this produces different oxides of nitrogen and sulfur. These oxides of nitrogen and sulfur combine with water droplets to form acids and fall down as acid rain. Presence of high levels of all suspended particulate matter causes visibility to be lowered. This is known as smog and is a visible indication of air pollution. Water pollution is the contamination of water bodies such as lakes, rivers, oceans and groundwater caused by industrial activities and domestic waste, which can be harmful to organisms and plants that live in these water bodies. We use the term water pollution to cover the following effects. The undesirable substances could be fertilizers and pesticides used in farming, or they could be poisonous substances like mercury salts which are used by the paper industry. These could also be disease-causing organisms like the bacteria which causes cholera. The removal of desirable substances from water bodies. Dissolved oxygen is used by the animals and plants that live in water. Any change that reduces the amount of this dissolved oxygen would adversely affect these aquatic organisms. Other nutrients could also be depleted from the water bodies. A change in temperature. Aquatic organisms are used to a certain range of temperature in the water body where they live. A sudden marked change in this temperature would be dangerous for them or affect their breeding. The eggs and larvae of various animals are particularly susceptible to temperature changes. Soil. Soil is an important resource that decides the diversity of life in an area. The outermost layer of our earth is called the crust, and the minerals found in this layer supply a variety of nutrients to life forms. The factors or processes that make soil are the sun. The sun heats up the rocks during the day so that they expand. At night, these rocks cool down and contract. Since all the parts of the rock do not expand and contract at the same rate, this results in the formation of cracks and ultimately the huge rocks breaks up into the smaller pieces. Water. Water helps in the formation of soil in two ways. Water could get into the cracks in the rocks formed due to uneven heating by the sun. If this water freezes later, it would cause the cracks to widen. Flowing water wears away even hard rocks over long periods of time. The fast-flowing water often carries big and small particles of rock downstream. These rocks rub against the other rocks and the resultant abrasion causes the rocks to wear down into smaller and smaller particles. The water then takes away these particles along with it and deposits it further down its path. Thus, the soil is found in the places far away from its parent rock. Wind. In a process similar to the way in which water rubs against rocks and wears them down, strong winds also erode rocks down. The wind also carries the sand from one place to other like the water does. Living organisms. The lichen grows on the surface of rocks. While growing, they release certain substances that cause the rock surface to powder down and form a thin layer of soil. Other small plants like moss are able to grow on this surface now, and they cause the rock to break up further. The roots of big trees sometimes go into the cracks of the rocks, and as the roots grow bigger, the crack is forced bigger. The water cycle. The whole process in which the water evaporates and falls on the land as rain and later flows back into the sea via rivers is known as the water cycle. Let us explain. Water bodies such as river, ponds and oceans are heated by sun and it evaporates and goes to atmosphere. There is loss of water from leaves in the form of water vapors into the atmosphere. This process is called as transpiration. Respiration by animals also loses water and it goes to atmosphere. The water condenses at suitable climate, form water droplets, and collective water droplets form the clouds. Water precipitates and get back on the earth in the form of rainwater. Water flows through or over rocks containing soluble minerals. Some of them get dissolved in the water. Thus the rivers contain many nutrients from the land to the sea, and these are used by the marine organisms. The nitrogen cycle. The atmosphere has 78% of nitrogen gas. The pure nitrogen cannot be taken directly by plants and animals. It must be fixed into a usable form. Lighting can fix the nitrogen gas by combining of oxygen to form nitrate ions. Nitrate ion easily gets absorbed into plants through the roots. The plants then use the nitrogen to convert the compounds of nitrogen. In the soil, bacteria or fungi convert the nitrogen gas or ammonium compound into ammonium ions. This process is called ammonification. Nitrogen from fertilizers like urea or ammonium compound and urea from urine decomposes to ammonia or ammonium ions. Ammonia dissolves in cytoplasm to form ammonium ions. Ammonium ion is converted to nitrate ions with the help of bacteria. This process is known as nitrification. Nitrate ions gets easily absorbed into plants through the roots. The plants then use the nitrogen to convert compounds of nitrogen. Some plants have special root nodules like soya bean and pea plants. Bacteria in root nodules fix nitrogen and convert into compound of nitrogen. Animals eat the plants to get nitrogen. When plants and animals die, bacteria and fungi present in the soil convert the nitrogenous waste into nitrogenous compounds to be used by plants again. Certain other bacteria convert nitrate ion into nitrogen. This process is known as denitrification. The gas goes back into the atmosphere. As a result, the percentage of nitrogen in the atmosphere remains more or less constant. Let us summarize it through a pictorial form. The carbon cycle. Carbon is found in various forms on the earth such as proteins, carbohydrates, fats, nucleic acids, and vitamins. The endoskeletons and exoskeletons of various animals are also formed from carbonate salts. Click on any button to get more information about them. Carbon is incorporated into life forms through the basic process of photosynthesis, which is performed in the presence of sunlight by all life forms that contain chlorophyll. This process converts carbon dioxide from the atmosphere or dissolved in water into glucose molecules. These glucose molecules are either converted into other substances or used to provide energy for the synthesis of other biologically important molecules. The utilization of glucose to provide energy to living things involves the process of respiration, in which oxygen may or may not be used to convert glucose back into carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide then goes back into the atmosphere. Another process that adds to the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is the process of combustion, where fuels are burnt to provide energy for various needs like heating, cooking, transportation, and industrial processes. In fact, the percentage of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is said to have doubled since the Industrial Revolution, when human beings started burning fossil fuels on a very large scale. Carbon is thus cycled repeatedly through different forms by various physical and biological activities. The oxygen cycle. Oxygen is a very abundant element on the earth. It also occurs extensively in the combined form in the earth's crust as well as in the air in the form of carbon dioxide. In the crust, it is found as the oxides of most metals and silicon, and also as carbonate, sulfate, nitrate, and other minerals. It is also an essential component of most biological molecules like carbohydrates, proteins, nucleic acids, and fats or lipids. But when we talk of the oxygen cycle, we are mainly referring to the cycle that maintains the level of oxygen in the atmosphere. Oxygen from the atmosphere is used up in three processes, namely combustion, respiration, and in the formation of oxides of nitrogen. Oxygen is returned to the atmosphere in only one major process, that is photosynthesis, and this forms the broad outline of the oxygen cycle in the nature. The greenhouse effect. Look at this structure. It consists of glass and some plants in it. It is made in this manner because it permits the light to enter but does not allow to escape the heat from it. Let us understand. Solar radiations can easily pass through the glass and the ground inside the glass house gets heated up. On heating up, it radiated thermal infraradiation, and the glass of inner do not allow it to pass out from it. Thus, heat is trapped inside the glass. As a result, temperature of inside the house rises up. This glass house is known as greenhouse. You are aware of the greenhouse effect. Let a part of the sunlight incident on the earth and heat up the earth's surface. The earth's surface radiates thermal infraradiation to the atmosphere. In the atmosphere, some gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, chlorofluorocarbons or CFCs, also known as greenhouse gases, prevent the escape of heat from the earth by absorbing this infrared light. This infrared light is reflected back by the earth. An increase in the percentage of the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere would cause an increase in the average temperature worldwide, and this phenomenon is known as greenhouse effect. Thus, the heating of the atmosphere due to the absorption of the infrared radiations by carbon dioxide molecules and other greenhouse gases is called the greenhouse effect.